Mm. Yeah, yesterday I was having dinner with my husband. And I don't know, for some reason, I thought we had class next week. Sometimes I have that, I space out because I'm on a beautiful island and I look at the ocean all day long, you know, I get numb in my brain. And then Jim says, so tomorrow after your class, I'm like, what? Tomorrow? I have a class tomorrow. Holy shit, I have to prepare the PowerPoint. I totally zoned. So I was up until like 3 o'clock in the morning getting this PowerPoint together because I also wanted to put a case study in to prep us for the final. And for these things, as you know, you need to turn your brain cells on, you know, Excel sheets and stuff. So I was like, okay, hopefully I need to make this right. Is that the right answer? Is that the right answer? So I cross-check myself. We're going to do this later, and if I did it wrong, you know why. So I was totally spacing out for some reason. I have no idea how I could, you know, I think it was next week. But we're having each other all this week, so that is good. So first I wanted to see, how is everyone? Everyone's doing okay? Did we proceed in the material? Everything was fine so far? A lot of you did assignment, I think it was called assignment 8, which was great. And I think a lot of you also had questions about that. So I did some Zoom sessions with you and I walked you through it. It was a more complex assignment, to be honest. So there is no shame in saying, I thought I understood everything and now I'm realizing I didn't understand anything, because it was set up to be a little more pushy and a little more, you know, causing your brain cells to go, what? How is this going to work? So it's a little complex. So don't feel, you know, if you took time and you didn't really figure it out the first time around, just know this is normal. This was a complex study, and it doesn't usually get more complex than this. So you're already at a level where you know now, okay, hit me with anything. I now know how to do this. So just so you know, this is the level of, oh God, this is like, now it's getting complicated. This is all you're going to get. This is as complicated as it's going to get. So just know that, and hopefully that makes you feel a little better. We're going to do one today where this is going to be one like you're going to find in the final. Very similar, and we're going to do it together. So you're going to be prepared to do your final. I think I'm going to open up the final a little earlier, maybe potentially, because you're also going into the recap week next week. So that's that. So the one thing I wanted to ask first, are there any questions about the material so far? Good. I like that. No questions. Any updates on the group projects or any questions about the group projects? Okay. So for you that are here and for those, yeah, Arnold?
I will ask, I know you talked about it with the dates. This was the first time we were told about kind of the presentation of it. So what is that? What are you thinking?
Here's what we're going to do next time we meet. Your job for this group project was to put together basically a business plan. Everything you've learned goes into this pitch deck / business plan. It is more of a business plan and less of a pitch deck, because you're going to deal with numbers, you're going to deal with return of investments, you're going to deal with risk mitigation. It is, however, also a pitch deck because you're dealing with content. You're going to tell me, what is your story about? Who are the characters? What's the genre? What's the story? And why are you doing it? And what's the deal? So that the content-driven, project-driven part of it is like a pitch deck. The team part of it is like a pitch deck, like the players in it and the actors in it and so forth. The financials that you're going to go into when you do sales estimates and you're going to do your return of investment analysis for the equity investor, which is who you're doing this for, that is going to be like a business plan. But it's not like you're putting everything in detail. You don't have to put an entire, like every step in there. What you put in there is, you're going to put a finance plan in there. That's your basic finance plan. And then you're going to do the calculation on the side, but you are going to put the return of investment number in there. And you should do it for ask and for take. So you should have 2 return of investment numbers, ideally. If you don't have it, it's okay. But that's what I do when I do my business plans. There's always 2 numbers, return of investment for what the ask could be and return of investment for what the minimum take is. So that's the work.
So in the return of investment, because we've started putting all the pieces together,
yeah.
On all the other assignments, you've told us what the U.S. distribution was.
Yeah, you come up with that yourself. You basically decide, depending on
we
what
made 100 million. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Yay, you're going to make 100 million in box office. There you go.
Okay.
If that's what you do, that's what you do. You just have to show me other projects like it that made 100 million and that are in the same budget range. If you find them, kudos.
But we can make that, that number up within
You can
reason.
make that number up within reason. You make all your numbers up within reason. But I'd like you to stick to the minimums that you've learned about for the worst case scenario, because that is going to be the number you're thinking of hitting with every project that you're putting together. So this is basically you learning how to put a project together when you go to someone to get money. That's what
so
this
I have another question about that is it typical? So an equity investor is getting a percentage of the budget, and then they're realizing after being recouped and whatever premium, they're realizing half of that shared with the producer.
Right.
So if their equity investment is 30% and they're getting 15%, do you identify that their investment equals the 15% or the 30%?
Here's what it is. In your movie, $3 million, your equity investor's putting in $1 million, 30%, right? The relation to the budget that you're asking for could be that, could be 30%. Maybe someone in the group says, I'm going to ask my investor to put in 50% because I'm not having a bank loan. I don't want to deal with the bank. Whatever that number is what that number is. If it's 50%, the back-end profit participation is 25%. If it's 30%, the back-end profit participation is 15%. Additionally, that $1 million investor that you had is also going to get a 20% premium. That 20% also needs to be added. The sum of the premium and the back-end participation number comprises your return of investment if you stand that in relation to the investment. So let's say your return of investment, let's say your premium is 20%. Like in your case, the equity investor would get $200,000, right? That's a premium. And let's say the movie made a lot of money and he got another $700,000 or $800,000. Let's say 800, right? In the back end. Oh my God, he makes $1 million. Now his return of investment is basically 200% because he doubled his money.
Right.
Because
so
he's
I get
spending the $1 million in relation to the $1 million that he invested. So you see how much is this? Oh, he doubled. He made basically he doubled his investment. So that's how you have to look at it. How much percentage did he make in addition in relation to what he invested? Right?
and
if it would have been 50 $500,000 combined, he would have made 150%, which is he made 150% is the ROI. He made 50% of his money. He made an additional 50%.
So should we, I guess just in a nutshell, should we stay away from identifying a kind of ownership interest and just refer to it as the equity and the return?
Yeah, the ownership has to do with merchandising and stuff, and that's fine. And the investors know that. But you don't need to run revenue on merchandising or ancillary rights. I mean, if you want to, you can. I usually don't even go there.
Right.
The ownership percentage does obviously reflect the back-end participation, which is a monetary amount that you will show in your business plan. When you write the business plan, you can say, my equity investor is going to hold 30% in membership interest in my LLC and is therefore participating in the IP on the same level. That's what you can write in your business plan, right? And then you have that covered. So they understand, the investor understands, okay, I'm going to make an additional backend, but I'm also staying with the IP for forever, in perpetuity, as long as the IP exists. So if someone does a remake or something, they might participate. You might, what I often write in there, I'm going to cap the ownership at a certain number. So when they made, let's say 200% or whatever the number is of their money, I'm going to say you're out on many of my projects. I do this when I have slate deals, because when I have to roll them over into other projects, they make enough money as is because the risk diversification is there. So I usually say, after we have done all this lovely work for 5 years, I put a term at it. I'll say at 5 years, everyone's out and we're starting with the new round of things. You don't want to carry them on to, a new project that is related to yours or the sequel. The other thing you could do is, if you want to keep them on and if they insist on staying on, you can say, okay, your ownership percentage for this project that you're financing is 30%. any subsequent projects, spin-offs, sequels, remakes, you would participate in on a 5% level. And they agree, they usually agree with that. You know, it's a
Right.
smaller percentage.
Yeah, the phraseology I guess I was concerned about is when you say the ownership level of 30%, the equity participation of 15, is that a pretty understood thing, or is
Yeah,
someone going to say, well, I own 30%?
It's understood. It's understood that the equity investor who gives you 30% gets 15% back end and ownership. However, you might have a greedy person in front of you who says, screw you and your rules. I want 50% of everything. Dead or nothing. Go home, take it or leave it. Happens. I had that happen to me and I had to make a decision. Am I taking this guy's money or not? So I decided to take it because I want to get the stupid movie done. So yeah, you deal with this, you know, you just have to know when you start out, and especially when I was starting out, you know, I had to take the deals that I could get. Honestly, I just wanted to create a portfolio for myself. And I also wanted to gain experience on making these movies because it was important for me to figure out how am I going to even make this? How's this going to work? Are we actually going to make this money? How's it all going to play out? There's nothing better than learning and doing it wrong, which I did plenty of. So that's why I think it is always good to agree to a deal that is probably not optimal in the beginning. Now, when you become Tarantino or, you know, someone like that, you go like, yeah, not really, I'm not doing that. If you want to work with me, these are my rules. So then, of course, you can make those demands. And hopefully I'll get there one day. I'll probably give up on that, but yes, you know, anyone who makes a mark for themselves as a content provider, like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I guess Tarantino, someone like that. They're not gonna. There are exceptions. I had a deal once that I worked with Soderbergh on. Soderbergh wanted to do this musical about Cleopatra. Great script, and it was fantastic. And then he's, you know, I listened to the music, and the music was awful. I'm like, oh, I have to redo the music. But I'm not into rock and roll, so there's that. I'm like an 80s funk girl, right? Anyway. So we were talking about the music, and as we were talking about everything, Soderbergh insisted on Final Cut. Well, I couldn't give him Final Cut. I couldn't because I was responsible for the investors. And in my position as being responsible for someone else's money, I have to have final control over what's happening with the product. If I don't have final control over what's happening with the product, I'm not fulfilling my fiduciary duty as the person that manages these monies. So I had to explain to him, I know I'm very sorry. I know you usually probably get Final Cut, but I can't do that, at least not officially. That killed the deal. He didn't want to do it unless he had Final Cut. And I couldn't do it because I couldn't give him Final Cut. So there's that. When you manage someone else's money, you have to have control over everything that goes on with your product, like the final product. You have to. Because what could happen very easy is that Soderbergh's Final Cut, he goes, you know, we have a bond company, and he goes on and on and on, and then the bond company takes over the movie. Soderbergh still has Final Cut, and then it gets a whole mess, and I never get my movie. I mean, there are things that are very dangerous about this. Legally, it's a mess. And when I didn't give him Final Cut, I felt very bad, and I called my agent at the time. I was with Endeavor, and I said, I think I screwed this up, and they said, no, he never gets Final Cut. He doesn't get Final Cut with studios either. But I didn't know that. So I was like, why does nobody tell me these things? I could have made it work then. Because I could have said, how dare you ask us? You don't get it from other people too. So why do you ask me? So, you know, that kind of stuff. But you learn, you go, you learn, you make mistakes, you figure things out. People don't tell you all that stuff in the beginning. They let you run against the wall 5 times. Maybe they like watching you get your head blown up, who knows. But it's not, you know, you don't get this information until you yourself step into it. So you, of course, all have an advantage by hearing of all my nonsense. But it is a tricky thing out there. There's a lot of pieces that are moving. And if you have the understanding that you have now with how you can protect yourself and your product, huge advantage. So just keep on doing what you're doing. For the project, this is where I was going with this long answer. Next week, what I would like to do, if it's possible, is that whoever is in a group, you know, your groups would present your project, or whoever you decide, you present it together, or one person presents it, whatever it is. But I'd like you to basically walk me through your business plan next week and say, here's a project, here's what we're doing, here's our presentation, and then I'll give you Yeah, sorry, 2 weeks. Thank you. Thank you. See, I'm screwed up. The next week I would have been sitting here. I was like, where's everyone? Where's everyone? Anyway, so you would prepare it like that. So we would have a little pitch session where all the people listen to all the people's projects. And I hope we have enough. I don't know how many, groups we have, and I got lost track on that, and how many people are doing the projects. And it doesn't matter if you did it on your own. Some people did it on their own, or if you did it in a group, it doesn't matter. I would love for you to share it with everyone. And when I give you feedback on it, and trust me, I'm very gentle. I'm not, no worries on that. But it is feedback that might help you when you go forward to do it yourself. It helps all the other people that listen to your project and our feedback. And that way we can learn a little bit about how these presentations should look like. So I hope some of you have done some projects that we can do this. Otherwise, we're not doing it. But yes, I hope at least one. Okay, is there anyone who's going to present?
Hey, Jeanette.
Yeah?
Rebecca will be presenting for us.
Perfect, great. You too, Lizian? Are you presenting?
Yes, well, yeah, our group, well, like I guess I will do the majority of the pitching.
Good.
So I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, is there a time limit on the presentation?
I don't want to give you a time limit on this.
Okay,
I just want you to feel free, because you don't really, when you talk to an investor, have a time limit. You just need to keep his attention, his or her attention. So when you present it, just keep that in mind. You're going to have a conversation with someone that you might have a coffee with, and that you walk them through their business plan. That's how it usually works.
Perfect.
You're not in a Shark Tank scenario where you have 2 minutes. We're not doing that. I want you to have time. I don't want you to rush through it. So don't worry about the clock. If we end up going long, people can just switch off and go home. It's not, I don't have to listen to this. I can look at it later with the recording if they get bored. But I'm not giving you a time limit. No.
Awesome. And we'll share like a sample presentation from the past. Okay.
No, you're sharing yours. What do you mean from the past?
No. Like I think like I watched like the second class recording. So you will give us like an example from like.
I think I did have a. Isn't there an example on the? I think I have like various examples on the modules, like how you do it wrong and how you do it right.
Ah,
there are sucky ones
that's
on
fine.
there even. I even have one where I say this sucks and here's why. So I think there are examples in the business plan section.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just look at those.
I just thought it will be like a PowerPoint that you will send out. But that's fine.
There are examples like that on the
okay.
And I think I even made a PowerPoint. I think I recorded a PowerPoint with a presentation that I'm walking you through. Should be on the module as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
okay.
That's great.
Sometimes these things don't load up properly, so let me know if you don't find it.
Okay, yeah.
But Arnold would find it immediately if it's not uploaded, right, Arnold? Did you see a PowerPoint where I walk people through a business plan?
There were some business plans, yeah.
Good.
There were
all right.
samples.
Yeah, good.
Rebecca's hand.
He catches everything. He's fantastic. Love it. I need an Arnold in every class. Arnold, you are now going to be invited to all my classes. I'm going to send you the link. That's it. You're done.
Not bad, Arnold. Congrats.
It's very useful, because when you're so much in the material as I am, you make silly, stupid mistakes. And then I'm German, and and I write very fast. I do a lot of spelling, so there's that. Arnold has been catching them all, thank God. So you would do a presentation. You don't have a time limit. So we have at least 2. Anyone else is presenting next in 2 weeks?
Our group will be presenting. For
yeah,
sure.
you, Rebecca, will be presenting with the one.
I don't know if it's gonna be me or Arnold, but like our group will be presenting.
You will be presenting.
Sure.
And then
we'll discuss it next week. Yeah.
No, 2 weeks. Thank you.
Our group has been meeting on the off Saturdays. So.
Oh, seriously? That's so nice.
Yeah. So we'll meet next Saturday.
Oh. And Lizian, are you in a different group?
She's in a different
group.
Yeah,
great,
it's like
thank God.
my group. Now
your group. Okay,
group.
Thank God. So we have at least 2. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you never know how many, because it's not mandatory, you never know how many people are actually doing the project. Okay, great.
My group will also be presenting as well.
Oh, perfect. So we have 3. Thank you. I'm so happy now. Now I'm looking forward. I'm excited. I was thinking maybe I even bring Jim in. My husband is an executive also, if you guys don't know it. He teaches on UCLA as well. He does business of entertainment, and then He does producing, writing, and directing of documentary series and reality television shows. I have no idea if that's the right title, something like that. But he is, he does deal with, you know, having to pitch things all the time and gets feedback all the time. I might have him sit in on the pitches and he can give you some feedback. Might be fun. So you get feedback from people. I see if he's available.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, right. And he's a great guy. You'll love him. I love him. That's why I married him. Anyway, let's see if we can start with our PowerPoint presentation.
I had one question unrelated to the group project, but related to the equity investors. How does the deal with the development investor work? Because I know they get their money back at closing.
Such a good question, Rebecca.
Great. Awesome.
Oh, yes. So here's how development works. Development money is usually spent as you put the project together. And if you find someone to give you that money, lucky you, great. However, that money is budgeted. So when you put your budget together, you have a development line item in there. So what you tell this investor is you're going to get your money the minute we close. So the development portion is being released with your production cash flow plan as you do your movie. So the first day of principal photography or whenever your bond close happens is when that money gets out. What you add to the development line item is the 20% premium that you're paying to your investor. So now if he gives you $100,000 in development costs, the development line item would say $120,000 and he would get that. He also would get a small portion in the back end. It's usually like 2 to 3%, something like that. Yeah, does that make sense? Did I not ever mention this in any of the modules?
We knew like they would get their money back at closing, but like I wasn't sure about the percentage. That's something I'm actually
going to add that to the module. I totally forgot about that. Good one.
Thanks.
That's how you get them, because they're like, what? I don't have to wait until the movie is made. Yay. And then you can use that money for like packaging and down payments for actors and all that stuff. That's a very good deal for an investor. So just make sure that they know they're not driven by performance. They're just driven by you managing to get the project financed. And if they help you to cast, you have it financed, because cast is your driving mechanism and of course your story. But if it's a well-packaged project, it's going to be done. It's going to be made by someone, you know, so that's something, that's a very good point. Good one, Rebecca. Love these questions. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Sharing. Okay, I don't know why I always lose everyone, but I always lose everyone when I do this. I lose my computer. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Nodding? Okay, good, great. So we're going to talk about a few essential production agreements and terms, some finance agreements and terms, and some distribution agreements and terms, and then we'll do a final prep study that takes you basically to a case study that's like the one that you find in the final. It's very similar. So you are all prepared for everything that's going to be facing you. If I can make this work, that'd be great. What is going on with my computer? Oh yeah, here we go. I don't know. My slides are being stupid. Okay. So when we talk about, you know, putting our project together, the first thing we do is we usually talk to a lawyer. And when you talk to a lawyer, there's two things you should know. You have two versions. You have the lawyer that is going to tell you, I'm going to do this for a flat fee for the entire project. And you're going to find lawyers that say, I'd like you to pay a retainer agreement of $5,000, $10,000, whatever. And then I'm going to charge you every hour that I work with you on this. The retainer, both of these you will budget under legal later. You know, whatever you spend and whatever you're guessing to be spending, you will budget in. The conversation with your lawyer needs to be, give me a budget. If you want a retainer agreement and you want to charge me per hour, I need you to give me, like you would give someone a litigation budget, you're going to give me a budget of what I need to be facing to get this movie made. What are you expecting to charge me for what? So don't be shy to ask that, because people, you know, and then the lawyers usually go, well, we don't know. Yes, you do know. You're going to have to do these agreements because you know them all. You're going to list them all. He knows what he needs to do. He should give you basically a budget of what this whole thing should cost. And then you put that in the budget. And then the conversation could also be, now that you have given me the whole budget of what this would cost, why can we not agree on a flat fee when we put that number in the budget? Whenever you can get a flat fee conversation, it would be better for you. So try to get them to do that if you can, because you're not going to want to, like I had it happen to me, have a huge legal bill because it went on and on and on and on. No one could foresee it would go on and on to close this thing. And then all of a sudden I had like a legal bill that was $500,000. Not kidding and not fun. So see if you can do that with your lawyer. You're going to also find that you're probably not going to be able to just use one lawyer. Not every lawyer is used to doing these financial closings. Not every lawyer knows how to do transactional deals with cast, with production teams, and so forth. A production lawyer is sometimes a different person than a finance lawyer. So when you talk to the lawyer, ask them, how many closings have you done? With what banks? And if they don't have an answer to that, then it's probably not the lawyer you want to use for your financial stuff. And then ask them also, you know, how many movies have you done? What production deals have you worked on? If they don't know how to name them, you then know that's not the right person, because the instinct lawyers will usually have is, oh, I've done everything, don't worry about it, I know. But you need to know that they've actually done this. I cannot tell you how important it is to be represented very well by the right person, because if you're not, you're going to miss things and you're going to walk into issues. And lawyers are just not always good. And you can make a screening by asking them questions about what you already know they should be telling you. And now as we go through these agreements, you know what they are, and you will say to him, okay, here's the agreements. If he doesn't tell you what closing agreements he's worked on, then you know he doesn't have the knowledge. So just do me a favor and test your lawyers a little bit. The SPV is the single purpose vehicle company that you're going to launch the minute you get your option or your deal. If it's a shopping agreement or a writer's deal for writer, if it's your own agreement, if it's your own deal, if it's your own idea and you have another writer write it, you do a writer for hire agreement. If you have a script from a writer, you do an option agreement that is also a purchase agreement. But all these things you do early on. In many cases, you're going to do them when you don't have the LLC yet, because you're just starting out and you're like, hey, it's me, Joe, and I'm going to do a deal with this writer, Josephine. So that's usually how it starts, right? But when you did that, and as you've done that, and as you get some momentum, you want to have an SPV, which is a single purpose liability company, where, I mean, the ideal thing to do is an LLC, because it's very easy to transfer these share/membership interest to investors or people that you work with. The idea is also to not give anyone in membership interest ever, other than the investor, because the equity investor, because they will insist on it. So if someone else works with you, let's say you have a co-producer that says, I'm going to help you package this and I want membership interest in the LLC, your answer should always be no. You're going to get back in profit participations. So you're going to continue in the profits like the equity investor, but I'm not giving you membership interest in my LLC because I need to keep the LLC clean for the investor. That's going to be your excuse, even though that's total bullshit, but it sounds great. You want to stay away from having someone else control the very entity that will do all the agreements. It's a very important thing. The investor is fine to be in there. That's not a big deal as long as the investor doesn't have approval rights. But if you have many people in there, even if they're minority parties, they can make trouble, because minority parties in a single purpose vehicle like an LLC, they have rights, believe it or not. They can make your life a living hell, even when on paper they have no voting rights, they have no nothing. They can come up with stuff and sue and do stupid things. If they don't have any ownership interest, meaning interest membership is what they're called, then it's much harder for them to insert you into a lawsuit or make trouble with the very company that holds all the assets. Because this company is the one that will hold all the rights and all the assets and will have all agreements with everyone. So just keep that in mind. You want to set up the SPV in a way that it's not costing you a lot of money. So if you set it up in California, you're going to have to pay the stupid $800 every year. Since you don't potentially know yet, if you're going to shoot the movie in California, maybe you shoot it in New Mexico, maybe you shoot it in Germany, maybe you shoot it on the moon or the Mars. You don't know. Because of that, you have the option to put the LLC in a state where you don't have to pay taxes and you don't have to, have any cost. I have all my LLCs. I started out having them in Delaware. Now I changed it to New Mexico. Nevada is also okay. And I do it with a company that I work with. They're called InkSmart. Inc., like Incorporation Smart, and I think their website is inksmart.biz. I think it's on the module as well. They charge me $149 to set up my LLC, and they charge me every year, I think it's $129 to do the work, to pay taxes and do the registry stuff that you need to do. You need to have a local agent, so to speak, in New Mexico or wherever you do it. To me, that works very well, and that's the asset-driven company. If I then go and shoot a movie in Georgia or I shoot a movie in Germany, I then create a second LLC, that's the production company that does the physical production. So now I have two. The one LLC in New Mexico does all the major agreements, and that LLC in New Mexico does a deal with the production entity that sits wherever the movie is happening to basically do the service of producing this movie. So you're separating the production risk from your asset risk, and that's something I would highly suggest you do. Because if something happens on the production, you know, whatever, COVID, whatever, it has to close down, some crazy nonsense, you're not killing all your assets with something that is production related. So the production LLC is also the LLC I would use to enter into the agreement with the bond company. So anything that's directly related to the production would be done with the SPV that has the production services. That includes your crew deals, that includes your writer-director, and it might even include your cast, depending on what stage you're in. So if the production is not happening in the same state, you can do that. It's not super bad if everything is one LLC. I just happen to do one first to create one for my rights, and then do another one to do the production services stuff. That's a personal preference. I do. You don't have to do it. You're already, of course, protected with an LLC. It's just something to think about. When you do your option agreements, you know that you always have to look into the history of the project. Was it with another producer? Are there any fees, development fees that were spent with the other producer or the other studio or the network where it was? Meaning, are there turnaround costs that I need to deal with, that I need to know about? Anything that's in the history, it's going to be your job to clean that up and to have early negotiations and making sure the chain of title is clean. When someone comes to you and says, I wrote the script based on this news article that I read, you need to make sure that they have the rights to whatever that article is, so you have everything cleaned. You are talking to, whenever you do an option deal or a shopping deal, you already want to make sure that everything is included in that deal, and that is very likely going to include a purchase price for the rights, or a deal that, when it's a shopping agreement, what would the deal be for you? So let's say you have a shopping agreement with another producer who you combine with, and they hold all the rights. It's possible that they contact you and say, you did this amazing class with Jeanette. You now know so much, I need your advice. So now you become a co-producer. In that deal, because now it's a shopping deal, because you're going to take their project and take it to places, right? You have to define what your money is, how much money you're making, and that you own and control the rights for this period. So they're basically assigning all rights to you for a certain amount of time. So you basically get an option on the option, if that makes sense. And you need to make sure that they have all the rights that they're handing to you. You know, I do this a lot where I help some of the people that were in my courses, where I first look at the chain of title, make sure they have everything that's clean, which helps them too, to make sure that they actually have the rights they think they have. And then I help them in whichever capacity I can be useful, if I can be useful. But I mean, usually I don't do any deals until later when I know I can actually help them. But if I do that, I always make sure they have all dots in the row. And then my deal is very clear. It's to what it is, what I do, and then when it happens, whatever I get, if I ask for something. The same applies for you. You need to know exactly what you're asking for, and you need to know you're getting into a deal with someone who has done all the due diligence. You should never do anything on any project unless you have a shopping agreement or an option agreement, because not only is it against the law to represent someone else's IP because you don't really own the rights, you could get into trouble for that, but also you're starting to talk to people who are getting excited about the project, and then if they want to do it and you don't have all the ducks in a row, it gets usually very tricky and very difficult to, at that point, get the project in a form that you can control it in a way you need to control it. Every time I did the option agreements later, and I've done this mistake, so I know, it always costs me more money, and it always makes it very harder. And what it does, it already creates a bit of a tension-like relationship that you don't want in the production to begin with. So it's early, it's better to do it early when everyone's happy, everyone's in a good mood, saying, oh my God, let's do this together, yay. And then you get the best deals because people are excited. So that's something I would keep in mind. Do you have any questions about this? Okay, if I could go to the next slide, that'd be great. Here we go.
What's the best way to check the chain of title? Like sometimes if it's not straightforward.
You can go to the Copyright Office. I'm sure that they have a copyright right? Put the title in the copyright office and check it there. Also WGA if they registered it. Usually every script has a WGA registry number on it. You can just put that in and see who owns it, what's going on here. So you can do that. There is a company that I use because when I do my deals, I have to do chain of title in a way that gives that suffices for the title insurance. It's like when you buy a house, they do title insurance. So I have to do it through a law firm. That law firm is called Dennis Angels. Dennis like Dennis and Angels like the Angels. They do a chain of title for you completely. And I think it's about $2,500 that you pay, but then you have a chain of title that's insurable. So you can go and then when later you have to have a production insurance where it also is insuring the title, you actually protect it because they did the work for you. And if they miss something, you are covered by this insurance just in case. So I always do it like that because I don't know if I'm seeing everything. I don't know if people are honest with me. Who, you know, I have to rely on what I'm being given. Who knows? And if I don't find anything in copyright, maybe they copywritten it through another name. Maybe the original title was something different that they didn't tell me. Could be. Because you go on the copyright office and you put in a title, and if the first title of the project was a working title that was something else, you're already screwed. So there are, you know, things to watch for.
Thanks.
So when you do an international co-production agreement, a co-production agreement for project producers, an executive producer agreement, and a packaging agreement, you're doing different kinds of agreements with different producers. So we talked about the role of producers last time, and it's pretty complex. The idea here is to remember what's what and what to put in what. When you do an international co-production agreement, you do usually an agreement with the producer because you're shooting this movie in a jurisdiction that's not the United States. You're shooting it in I don't know, Fiji, Germany, Spain, England. You're shooting it there and you need a local producer in order to access the subsidies that are available there. In many cases, hold on, is there like a chat going on here? Oh, there's a chat going on. Let me see what people are asking. Hold on, chat. I'm going to get to the chat at some point. I forgot that there's a chat. You're looking to see if a book is available, the rights in. Oh, good, perfect. Yay. Thank you, Crystal. Crystal gave us a good tip. Where was I? International co-productions. Okay. So when you do a deal with an international co-production producer, many times they require you, the jurisdiction requires you to give all rights to this producer, which is obviously a very dangerous thing to do. Because the minute you give all rights to the producer, you give all the power to that producer. So the idea here is to limit this to a certain period of time. And sometimes that means you have to have a second agreement in place because they might need one agreement where it says rights were transferred to us, thank you very much. And that's the agreement that they take into the subsidy boards to apply for the subsidy. And then there might be a second agreement that says this agreement overrides any other agreement. And this agreement states that you're going to have to transfer the rights back to me by closing or by a certain, certain date. So you really limit the rights transfer, and you have to do this. Otherwise, you make yourself subject to the international co-production partner in relation to everything. Because when you lose the rights, you lose your whole project. So keep in mind that when you do this, you have to have two agreements in place in many cases where the second rights agreement is going to be limiting that. In some cases, you can limit it in the original agreement. It really just depends on the jurisdiction and what the jurisdiction needs in order to give you the subsidy or give them the subsidy for them to give you. In this agreement, you will also specify the money that you give them and pay them. What are they going to do? Are they going to do production services locally? Are they just going to do subsidy for you? What is actually their role? If they do production services locally, which they likely will, you should allocate a production services fee for them. If they just do the funding for you, you could do what is basically a finder's fee for them. Both is driven by the money that they give you. So let's say they do a funding deal where they just give you the subsidy. You say, okay, if you're giving me this money, I'll give you 5% of whatever you're raising. The finder's fee should never be more than 5% of what they give you, right? Because it's not really their money. So they're just handing something to you that was handed to them. Okay, for that and for the work that they do, they get 5%. That's a reasonable amount of what they get you in the end. If they do production services for you, they usually will give you a budget of what they need. They'll say, if I produce this movie here for you in this jurisdiction, here's my budget. So let them do a budget with ideally a line producer looking over it that is your line producer, so that if there's questions, you can ask. The idea for this budget would be that it's lower than the budget that you have put together for your project, because if it's higher, you're in trouble. It needs to be lower than what you have put in place, and or the same, lower or the same. And then in that budget, there's going to be a line item for him as a producer. And that is probably a producer fee X, I don't know, 3%, 5%, whatever it is, of whatever that budget reflects. So it needs to be a producer fee that you both agree on. I have never paid more than, to people like that, I want to say 3 to 5% of whatever they brought me. I still let it go against what they're bringing me. So if you end up paying someone 8% to do the whole entire thing, 8 to 10% to do the whole entire thing of what they're bringing you, then I think you're in good shape. So just keep that in mind. You have to talk about backend in that case too, because the international co-production partner will likely ask for some backend because they want to participate in the success of the movie that they're helping you make. However, that backend number should never be more than 3% because it's really not their money they're giving you. So just keep that in mind too. I've never paid more than 3%. So you need that. Approvals. They should not have any approvals, not at all. Even with the budget that they give you, that they are saying this is how much you're spending, they still don't have approvals. So all approvals in relation to budgetary line items, in relation to any kind of shooting schedule, cash flow, whatever it is that relates to the production that would affect them should always stay with you. And you need to put that in this agreement that all approvals in relation to financing, budgeting, distribution, and physical production are always with you. So basically no approvals to them. They agree to a budget with you and that's it. And you mutually agree to it already and you have an exhibit that has the budget. So the exhibit is with the agreement that you're doing, with the international co-production agreement. Now the other co-production version that we have here is you working with another producer. Maybe you hire someone to help you, maybe you are the one that's being hired to help them. That's a co-production agreement that relates to the work that you do with them. So let's say they, you hire someone to help you cast, to package, which is an important thing because the cast and the packaging drives the value of your project. So that's a very strong partner. And that partner would probably be the one that makes, in my view, has the rights to the most money to be making. He or she should likely make the same amount than you make as a producer because they're really helping you make this happen. They should also share with your backend. They should have as much or a little less than you have in the backend because that kind of value is basically as important as you bringing the rights to making it happen. So that's, I would say, the highest level of partner you can find, someone who brings you cast or someone who helps you make it happen by packaging. Now, the second version of that is someone who brings you money. Now, that someone who brings you money is similar to the first one we just discussed for the international co-producer, because that person is someone who just gets a finder's fee. They will likely get a co-EP credit or an EP credit, even though they have a co-production agreement with you. But they are driven by whatever money they give you and would then have a fee subject to the money they actually brought. In the reality, what happens is someone comes to you and say, I'm going to go out and raise all the money for your budget. They come back with half of it or a percentage of it. The reality is always different. That's why the fee should always be connected to what they're actually bringing to the table at the end. So they make less money as a producer fee because it's driven by the funding that they provide, and they have usually very little, if no, back end. So the back end, would that be transferring over to whoever they're bringing to the table who gives you the money. And they need to understand that. If they require back end, don't do more than like 2.5% for someone like that. Approvals here are not existent. This kind of co-producer will not have any approval rights, so just keep that in mind. The rights here stay with you. All rights stay with you for both of those production agreements. So if you have a co-producer that packages, if you have a co-producer that brings money, if you have a co-producer that does anything, the rights always stay with you and the approval rights always stay with you. They will not transfer to any of these parties. Executive producer can basically be an investor, can be someone who brings money, can be someone who just helps you along the way, who gives guidance. Like if you call me up and say, Jeanette, I need your help with this, I would be an EP on it, likely, if I guide you through the process. They can do a lot of work and they can do little work. What you pay them has to do with how much time they're spending and what they're actually doing. So there is a very large possibility of the realm of what they should be paid. They shouldn't be paid as much as you get paid. They should not get any back-end participation unless they are an equity investor. And they should not have any approval rights unless they are responsible for someone who brings in money. So for example, if I would come in with my money or I would bring an investor, I would require approval rights. I would say, I need to know that this money is going to come back and I'm going to require to approve any material changes, cost this. So it depends on what they do. The executive could also be a studio or a network or a streamer. So it could be a distribution partner, right? They then also require approval rights because they're buying something from you that is based on certain elements that you're promising. So they would have approval rights over all these material elements, which would include your package, your script, and potentially your budget. So those are the things you have to remember for this. When I talk about a packaging creative producer, this is not the producer that necessarily is your co-producer. A packaging producer could be someone who deals with, I know this casting director and he knows exactly what Johnny Depp is doing right now, and we could get it through her to Johnny Depp. So that's someone who consults with you on the packaging of the steps that you're taking to get there. This could be a creative producer who also maybe works with you on the script to optimize it. It's a very content-driven, very creative-driven position that usually gets a smaller fee in the budget, but it could be you know, I would say like a 2% fee or 1% fee in relation to the budget, what you pay. It's a smaller component and really depends on what they're doing. Now, if the packaging producer just wants a creative producer credit and doesn't want the co-producer credit, but wants to do the packaging work like the co-producer in the beginning, then the co-producer terms that I just mentioned would apply for this person. So they would get some back end, they would get a higher fee. It just depends on what credit they want. Some people just say, you know, I want the creative producer. I don't want the producer credit. Because the producer credit, as it is by itself, comes with legal liability. So that's why a lot of producers you work with would rather have a co-producer credit or a creative producer credit or an EP credit or a co-EP credit, because that credit does not have the liability aspect associated to it. So it's something to remember. Anytime you are a proper producer on it, you are drawn into the bucket of, if something goes wrong, it's on your ass. So be careful with that credit. It has a lot of responsibility to it. Any questions on this? Something I want to mention here is turnaround. When you work and put your project together, and if you pay any of these people, you know, some of these people might require a retainer or an upfront payment or something, which is normal. Just be careful with that and what you're actually paying for. This becomes part of your turnaround. This is your money that you're spending while you're developing your project. And everything you spend while you're developing your project becomes part of your turnaround budget. If you fly to Puerto Rico to look at San Juan as a city for a potential shoot, everything is in your turnaround. This cost, location scouting is your turnaround. Doing script changes, having to pay another writer potentially to do changes, turnaround. Your option fee, obviously, turnaround. Your purchase cost, turnaround. Anything you do that is research related to a subject matter, let's say you do a medical drama and you have to have an advisor. It gives you early advice when you put a TV series together to get the medical stuff right. Turnaround. All these things need to be budgeted as a turnaround / development fee. So make sure you keep all these receipts, because there might be a day where you have to produce backup for this. So that's important to remember in these things. Next, if I get the slide up, that'll be great. Come on, my computer is being very slow. I hate this thing. When we do deals with our director and cast, there are a few things that need to be in the pay or play offer and in the engagement letter that is going to be a subsequent agreement to the pay or play offer. So the pay or play offer is something you send to the agent or manager, and it's an official offer to engage this person. This could be the director or the cast. You obviously include the title. You obviously include, when you do the director, the remuneration, the money that you're spending, the remuneration I have trouble speaking English this morning. You might give them money during the development, which could also be the director deal. He could also be a showrunner deal. Same thing applies here. You give them money while they're helping you develop the project. So there might be something that you have to pay up front. Again, that becomes subject to your turnaround. You put that in there, and then you tell them how much money they make through the production phase and when they're getting paid. You talk to them about the budget range, what should be in there. If you have any information about distribution, you add that here. You're talking about the shooting period that you're estimating to be taking place, the location. You're talking about any special conditions, any approval, any bonding things that they have to do, because the bond company will require an agreement with the cast and the director themselves. So they have to agree to adhere to any bond requirements. They're not going to have final cut, so make sure that you have that in the offer. The final cut is actually something I don't always put in the offer. So that's something you need to kind of feel out. It's not necessary. I put it in the engagement letter. I don't always put it in the offer. You apply, if it's a DGA director, you would say the agreement that we're going to enter is subject to DGA rules and regulations. And you would attach the script. So you start your offer with these kind of elements in there. And you also write one sentence in this offer, every offer that you send out, which is, this offer is subject to the closing of a completion bond insurance. It's very important that you write that, because if the completion bond doesn't close for any reason, your project is not going to happen unless you're dealing with people that do not require a completion bond insurance, which some don't. I've yesterday visited with a friend of mine who's doing a project that's totally financed by Netflix, and Netflix did not require a completion bond. They will take the risk of overages, and some don't. So remember that there are certain buyers, certain streamers, certain studios that will not require a completion bond. So in that case, it's fine, but they also pay for everything and they take the risk. As long as you're not on the hook for the risk, and that's important in your agreement with someone like this, that you are not responsible for budget overages. That would have to be in this agreement with this kind of streamer or network or studio. In Germany, what happens, we don't do, when we do a television project, for let's say I do a TV movie there, we don't do completion bonds for this. And this network station makes us, the production company, liable for overages. So it's the worst case of that you can have. And there is unfortunately no way around it in Germany. For television, feature films is different, but for television it is like that. So I always try to get like some kind of a production insurance in place to work my way around this stuff, but it's tricky. So here, thank God, we have a different standard in the US where you can get away with saying, okay, if we don't do completion bond, I don't want to be responsible for overages, so you guys are. And you put that in the agreement. When it comes to talent deals, also pay or play offer is very similar to what you see with the director. You have the title, the role, of course, the salary, what you're paying them, the budget range, any distribution that you know about, shooting period, location, you talk to them about the director, any special conditions, and you attach the script. Now in the cast agreement, you want to make sure that you have a provision in there that says, if I have to replace the director, I'm going to approve the director. Most high-level casts will say that's not going to fly. You'll try it, and then you see if you can. And if they say that's not going to fly, you will attach a list of potential other directors. And you think about that early on, who else could that be? And you let them suggest some others that they think that they would like. And you put that on the list as long as you're okay with them. And you obviously put in there, if they have to approve a different director, it needs to be a director who is of equal or better value to the project. And that value is established by the sales agent. So the sales agent becomes your basically point of decision maker. Because if the sales agent says this director, that this cast member is directing this, I can't work with them, the sales numbers are going to drop, you can basically have an out. But if the director that the cast member wants does not change your value and you're okay with them, you can keep them. So that's something to remember for the cast deal. So the steps here is always you do the offer first and then you do the engagement letter later. Questions? So the sales agency agreement, a few important things. A, you're going to limit it to the actual rights that they're handling for you. So if you do a television series, you're only giving them the television distribution rights. If you do a theatrical movie, you're giving them the theatrical rights and the television rights, but not the internet rights or the merchandising rights or the ancillary rights or the spin-off rights or the remake rights, none of that. If this agreement that you're entering is called a distribution agreement, it is automatically assumed that all the other rights will be given. So you do not want to do a distribution agreement. You want to do a sales agency agreement. Just remember this. So you give the sales agent these rights. However, you give them the right to sell the other rights that they don't have. So the agreement basically says, we're going to have the sales agent, this is limited to the feature film and the television rights, but the sales agent is authorized to sell all rights. And then maybe you exclude just merchandising, because why would they sell merchandising? There's no point. So you would exclude those things in relation to the agreement that they enter into with a third party. That's the clean way of doing it. You could also say the sales agent gets all rights to sell with the exception of the merchandising rights. That's okay too, if you don't want to do two steps. So it's basically everything but merchandising. So you give them the internet rights to sell, you give them all the other stuff to sell, and then they go do that. But it is important that you define what you're giving them, and it's also important that you define the length of it. So your sales agency agreement should not be more than maybe 5 to 7 years, but you give them the right to sell your movie in this relating to distribution agreements that can be in perpetuity. So they have the right to sell your movie to Germany for perpetuity, which means you don't get it back, ever. You can do that. What I do usually is that I will allow them to sell rights for up to 25 years. That's really the longest. And that is, if someone buys 25 years, they better be paying a large amount of money. We know that. Because the idea for you is to have them sell the first run rights and they expire in 3 years. Second run rights expire in 3 years. Again, rights, remake rights, because every time those rights expire, you make money. That's the ideal. But it doesn't always happen because buyers get picky and they don't want to pay more when they, So the buyer's market has changed so much in recent years that it's harder for them to agree, or for the agents to get the distributors to agree to these short terms. So you need to give him a little leeway so he can actually do deals for you. But I would stay away from perpetuity if you can, and just give him rights and say, you know what, 20 to 25 years should really be the longest. And the shorter you get away, the better. So ask him, how long do you think these buyers are going to need these rights for? What do you think for the first run? Let him give you what that is, and then put that number in there. Because if he told you first run, it's usually 7 years or 8 years, put that in there. So let the sales agent guide you on that. The sales estimates have to be established, and they are a part of your contract. They have to be an exhibit, and the agreement has to say that you must approve every sale that is below a take price. You as the producer must approve that. So it's very important to remember that. You also talk about a delivery schedule. So the delivery schedule explains exactly what elements you're giving to the sales agent for him to then give to the distributor. And they give you a schedule that lies out everything they need, and we don't have to worry about that right now. Just make sure that when you do a TV deal, they don't give you a schedule that includes a theatrical print, which obviously doesn't exist, but like theatrical delivery elements, because you're creating theatrical delivery elements that cost money and you don't even need them. So just make sure they give you a delivery list that is in accordance with the rights that they're acquiring and selling. The performance clause we talked about many times, it should be connected to your sales estimates and the take column. It should say something like, in the first 6 months, you're going to make this amount of money. In the second 6 months, you're going to make that amount of money. And then after 2 years, you're going to hit the take price. So slice it up. And I would always slice it up by saying a third should be made in the first 6 months, another third should be made in the second 6 months, and then the rest should be made within 2 years. That's how I do it. The performance clause would state that if they don't hit these milestones, you have the right to terminate the agreement. So if they don't hit the first milestone of 30% of take in the first 6 months, you could fire them. And you should, because it's a bad sign. They should obviously agree to a collection agent, and I've said this many times. If they don't agree to a collection agent, this is not a sales agent you should ever be working with. There are certain deals that the sales agents will do that will not include a minimum guarantee payment to you, but will basically say, we're going to be revenue sharing with the distributor that buys the product and their revenues. So if you do a rev share deal and you allow a rev share deal, which you should always approve. So this agreement should include a passage that says rev share deals are allowed but have to be pre-approved by the producer. And here's the rev share deal you can approve is a rev share deal you can actually monitor. So it should be driven by gross revenues, because those you can see easy. So if an internet provider comes to you and says, I'm going to be sharing my revenues with you, you say, okay, that's fine, but I'm going to be participating in your gross revenues. I don't care how much money you're spending. I don't care what advertising you have to do. I don't care about any P&A that's applicable. I don't care what it costs you to put this on your whatever network this is on. My revenue needs to come from the gross. So try to push for that, because it's the easiest way for you to audit if you ever have to audit the rev share, because the rev share means you're really allowing the person that's taking this out to do their job, and hopefully well, that you get a revenue share as the outcome of what their job is. This rev share deal should also include a minimum and a time frame. So it would have a performance clause that says, you have to meet a certain amount of number for me in this rev share by this time. If your revenue share does not hit $200,000 in the first 6 months after you release this product, you're clearly not doing anything. And why would I keep you holding off my product, and you didn't even pay for anything? So revenue share deals should be very carefully watched. If a revenue share partner insists on costs to be deducted, the phrase you use is verifiable third-party out-of-pocket expenses, and they have to be approved by you. So pre-approved, verifiable third-party out-of-pocket expenses is the exact thing you say. And what that means is they have to show you the invoice to whomever they paid, and you have to be okay with it. So those kind of things are important for you to know, because they might pay themselves, like the studio deals. They say, yeah, we have this P&A cost, and it's actually that releasing department that we're giving the money to. So you want to make sure they're not paying themselves for the work that they themselves do, because you don't want to, it's not your job to make them rich. They haven't paid you anything, so you need to be making money here. So just make sure that you keep in mind that you need to watch the distributor who does a rev share deal with you every step of the way, so you can actually get a revenue share. If they pay in advance a minimum guarantee, that would be something. You could still do a rev share deal where they say, we pay a small minimum guarantee up front, and then we give you a rev share deal. The minimum guarantee should be allowed to be deducted as an expense. That's the only difference. Everything else still applies. So you're going to have sometimes a situation where you have a mix of things, and there you say, okay, you paid this license fee from your revenues that you're getting from the gross, you are allowed to pay this, and then I'm going to get my revenue share. The allowed deductions should be spelled out. What exactly are they? And they know what these are, and they should list them for you. What are we doing? What are you actually needing money for? Tell me what that is, and then I'll decide if I want to give it to you or not. And depending on who your rev share partner is, these expenses might be different. So let them tell you what they want to charge you, and let them be specific, and then decide whether or not this is a specific expense you want to allow. Overages we talked about, they can apply when a minimum guarantee was paid and the studio or the distribution partner has certain expenses that they're allowed to deduct. And after all that has taken place, there is a basically overage share, a profit participation share is really what that is, applicable. So that share is usually a 50-50 share. So that means they get to recoup their minimum guarantee, they get to recoup the expenses, all the P&A, whatever release expense that they had, advertising, all that stuff, their distribution fee they get to recoup. And after that's recouped, it's a 50-50 split. And that is for you an overage, because you already received the upfront payment as a minimum guarantee, and now you're receiving overages. So that's something to be aware of. You need to put an audit clause in all your agreements. Every sales agency agreement, every distribution agreement needs to have an audit clause. So you need to tell your sales agent, please make sure you put an audit clause in there for me to audit them. If the audit reveals that there is a discrepancy of more than 5%, all the audit costs would be paid by whoever was dishonest. In this case, the distributor, right? If it's under 5%, then everyone pays their own fees. But if it's over 5%, then the distributor pays all costs. So just make sure you have that in there. Questions about this? Right, people, move on here. What the hell?
You do this with distributors, you don't like the audit clause. You
Yes.
don't necessarily do this with sale agents.
You do
if
that
have
with
a
both.
collection
You do it
agent.
with both, Rebecca.
Okay.
Yes.
Even if you have
have
a collection agency, you still do it.
You want to do audit clauses always.
Okay, cool.
Because one example, I have a movie, The Experiment. We have a collection agent, you know, great movie, Sony distributed in the US, and the movie was sold by a sales agent who went bankrupt. That sales agent transferred the rights to, they basically went bankrupt and decided they're gonna open up a new sales agency. Well, I never did a deal with the new sales agency. They just transferred the rights that they had from this old bankrupted company into the new company. I don't even know if this is legal. I'm having my lawyer look at that right now. But the problem is now this new company is selling my movie. I have no idea what's happening. So the way for me to get around this is the audit clause. The audit clause that I put into the original agreement. I now have the right to audit everyone relating to my movie because the audit is connected to the movie, not to the company. So now that they gave the movie to another company, I now can audit that new company. And that's what I will likely do once I get a minute. But that stuff happens, and it's a new one for me to deal with, honestly. I've never dealt with this. So that's something I can be sharing about at some point, how that goes down. But in the bankruptcy mess somehow decided that this movie is part of the bankruptcy mess and just it's going to be assigned. I have no idea if this is illegal or not. I have to find that out. But through the audit, I can go and say, okay, you are selling my movie as this new company. Who did you sell it to? How much money did you make? And why didn't I see any of it? So that's protecting me with the sales agent. So you need to put an audit clause with your sales agent in case something happens to the sales agent, in case they do something stupid, and in case they're not honest with giving you all the agreements that they actually sold. How do you know what they sell? You don't know. I mean, many times I go on IMDb and see my movie was sold in Hungary, and I'm like, hold on, Hungary? I don't remember seeing an agreement with Hungary. They didn't tell me. So
Okay.
while it states in these agreements, you have to reveal all the distribution agreements that do we know if these people are honest? We don't. And then you go on IMDb and you see that there is a distributor listed that you've never heard of. So, check on these things. That's why an auditing agreement. And that happens.
Can you put a non-assignment clause in those so that they can't assign the rights to the film to anybody else, any other distributor or sales agent?
Yeah, of course I do have that in there, that any assignments I have to approve, but I think bankruptcy and rights, there must be something else applicable here. And I'm not a lawyer to understand, what that is. I'm actually learning about this right now. With the bankruptcy law, it's an official bankruptcy law with an official bankruptcy court deciding where stuff goes. I have no idea how the rights to sell my movie fall into that asset of that company and how those are dealt with. It's a new one for me, because it's not an actual assignment. It's basically part of the mess. There was some kind of weird thing going on. Honestly, I have to, my lawyer is looking into it as we speak. I'll let you know how that goes out. But it's a tricky thing, and it's a very dangerous thing also for my investors, of course. So I have to figure it out because my investors expect me to, and I will. So it's a tricky one. But yes, the clause should include this agreement is not assignable without your approval. Kemi, that's a very good point. Thank you for that. So when you do a deal with your equity investor, you obviously decide what the principal investment is, what the premium is, and what the back end is. You're going to talk about collateral to them, the collateral position that they have. They're going to be recouping behind anyone in front of them, really. But you can also talk about ring fence or territories where you say you are going to recoup in these territories in first position because I'm going to take them out of the collateral that I'm giving to the bank. Remember, we had this conversation about the bank when you have a lot of unsold rights and the bank does not give you a lot of gap and they cannot hold on. Like when I spoke to one of my bank-like lenders the other day, it's not a bank, but a bank-like lender, they were only giving 5% gap. So if I only get 5% gap, if I decide to go with this company, they don't need to hold on to all my unsold rights. Why? No point. So I'm taking some rights out of there so that I can give those to my equity investor. So it really comes down to how much does your bank or your senior lender clinch onto in rights. And then you put those in your agreement with the equity investor. You do talk to them about approval rights if they have any. If they need approval rights because they want to have a tax deduction on this investment, then you need to define what those are. It needs to probably be approval rights over material terms in order for them to get the tax deduction in the US. It's just US driven, right? And if they don't need a tax deduction, the approval rights should be 0. Other than if you change something that changes the value of the movie, then I have a right as the equity investor to approve that, because I gave you money based on the sales estimates you provided to me and based on the projections you provided to me. If you're now changing something that changes these projections, I have a right to interfere as the equity investor. That right you need to give them. You might want to talk to them about milestones. If you can avoid milestones, I would avoid it, but they might want to talk about it. They might want to say to you, well, I want to know what money I can make by when and what happens if I don't. So if you talk about milestones, don't agree to anything under a 3-year term. So say to them, I don't know, what the distributors do. I don't ever want to give any money assurances before 3 years. And you're not really giving assurances either, because you are going to write it in big fat letters, dear investor, you can lose all your money, end of story. But you can say something like, I'm going to use best efforts to reach the recoupment of this amount of money at this period of time. So you can say that after, maybe if you want to have a small amount, you can do it after 2 years. If it's a larger amount, you're going to go after 3 years. And you can go milestones from like 2 to 5 years. You can give little milestones of what you believe you can hit. But the language here is use best efforts, not agreeing to pay this. Some investors, not many, but some might say to you, if you don't hit these milestones, am I getting penalties? Am I getting extra? Am I getting anything? Usually you don't want to do that. But if they say, you can put in late fees. You can say, okay, if those milestones are not hit, I'm going to add to your premium a late fee of X. This is getting complex. I would try to avoid this, but I want to mention it to you now, because if you are faced with this kind of a conversation, you want to know you have options to put this in. So a late fee could be, okay, fine, if you give me $1 million and I'm not going to be able to pay back $200,000 in 2 years, I'm going to give you a late fee of, $10,000 or something, or $5,000, something small. Might make them feel better. But keep it small, keep it low, keep it as low as you can, because that would then have to be tagged onto the premium. And it would mean that you, as a producer, are now cutting into your profits. So just be very careful with how much of that you allow. Ownership share, copyright share. This investor does have a right to share in these things with you. So as you know, IP ownerships are reflected in the LLC that holds the interest for this IP. So sharing membership interest of the LLC is also sharing membership, sharing ownership in the copyright, because the copyright will be held by that LLC. You want to make sure that you talk about all the risks in that agreement. Talk about the risks of everything. You're going to put in things like movie doesn't make money, movie tanks, movie doesn't get released, movie doesn't get sold, movie, well, you don't have to put in doesn't get completed, because you have a completion one company on it, so it will definitely be completed. If you don't have a completion one on it, you have to put in the risk of completion. So a movie might not get finished. You have to, if you don't use completion one, you have to put that in. What other risks? If you don't use a collection agent, you're going to have to put an audit risk in there that protects the investor if you could take all the money and you run to Fiji and buy yourself a nice house. But you should have an agreement where you put the investor at ease in saying, I will be using a collection agent, and if required, I will be using a completion one company. So those two things should be in there. The mezzanine investor has a very similar agreement than the equity investor. The only difference here is that there is a term associated to this agreement because it is in essence a loan agreement. So the the mezzanine investor would likely have to get a term of 5 to 8 years or something for you to pay the loan back. They will also have a provision in there that allows them to take the movie over and to take the asset and own the asset if you don't pay them in time, which is not something the equity investor has. Which is a default clause. So that means that in case of default, if you're not paying the loan in 5 years, they have rights to take over the entire asset and the collateral. And you have to, of course, with the mezzanine lender, explain all the risks. You know, this cannot be sold, this cannot be done, this and the other, but they have securities in the sense that they get to keep the movie and you lose it. So you need to make sure that you write about all the terms: interest, premium, backend. Premium is not applicable if you pay interest, just so you know. Only pay one or the other, interest or premium, not both. Backend, if there is any. If you pay a high interest, you should not be paying any premium and should not be paying any backend. If the interest is more than, I would say, 15%, don't pay either. If the interest is around 10%, you can pay a little backend, little, not more than 5%. If there's no interest, you might end up paying a premium, ideally not more than 10%. And it's also depending on how much money they give you. So these are kind of the differences between the equity investor and the mezzanine lender. Let's see if my next slide goes on here. Subsidies. Important here is to remember that the subsidy lender does not get any money from you other than the fee that they charge you up front. They will then get paid by the region that is giving you the subsidy. So no recoupment provision should be given other than you're not paying them. There is a cash flow schedule that they might adhere to. That's a bonded schedule, which basically tells them when they have to give you the loan, because they might not give it to you at the beginning. They might give it to you in installment as you're spending the movie. Fees and costs should obviously be part of the agreement. The bank sheet, the bank financing deal is very much driven by what the bank gives you. So you're not gonna have too much negotiation room there. They're gonna give you what is their template. And that template, in first instance, is going to be a term sheet that talks about any discounts that they're applying for any of the countries, for any of the pre-sales, any interest that they charge, any loan fees that they charge, any legal fees that they charge, any of that, anything basically that is summarized and going to be in your loan agreement later is going to be in your term sheet. This is a thing that they just give you, and I don't think you can negotiate this, honestly. I've never been able to. The other thing that they give you is NOAs, which are notices of assignments. They want you to sign notices of assignment so that that the distributor has the right to not pay you, but pay them. So you are basically assigning whatever the distributor owes you to go to the bank, so you don't get that money. This happens every time when you work with the bank, because they want to protect themselves that the money doesn't go to you first, but goes straight to them. It could be that it goes straight to them and doesn't go into the collection account. It could be that it goes into the collection account first and then goes to them. But either way, you're assigning all the revenues to the bank and they'll get everything until they're paid off. So that's what that notice of assignment stands for. The collection, that's a spelling. Yeah. So obviously they are either in the collection agency agreement, they're in the CAMA or they're not. If they are recouping outside of the collection agency agreement, they're not going to deal with you on the CAMA agreement and they get paid first, or they're going to be in it, in which case they become a signatory to the CAMA. If they're not in the collection agreement, they have an assigned account, which is basically an account that is going to be used and sent to all the distributors where they have to pay the monies to. Once the monies are paid, once the loan is repaid, that account number changes and becomes your collection account number. And that's going to be basically mentioned in the agreement that you do with them, and it's also going to be in the LOA. These agreements are usually not more than 2 years. So that means in case you do not pay the bank back within 2 years, they get your movie and they own it until you pay them back. Same applies then with the mezzanine lender. they'll basically fire sale all the rights for very little money to just get their money back. That's all that's going to happen, and you're going to lose your picture. When you do a deal with the completion bond company, you want to make sure that you only pay what's basically called the strike price. So you're going to tell the completion bond company, here are the exclusions I want to apply. Are you okay with this? And these exclusions can be your producer fee, your legal fees, could be some rights fees, stuff that you control that you pay early on can be excluded, and that will help you save money. The completion bond company will look at the budget, and you together approve the budget, the shooting schedule, and the production cash flow plan. These things are things that are part of the completion bond agreement and that will be mutually agreed. Obviously, they approve the script, they have to. So it's called the bonded script in the end. And they have to approve all the agreements with the director, producer, and cast. They will also have their own agreements with the director, producer, and cast. They have an agreement with you that says, if you screw up, they get your producer fee. You want to try to limit that number as much as you can. And they will require certain production insurances from you, like an E&O insurance, E&P, no, it's E&O. Jesus, see, I did this at 3 in the morning, and now you know what happens here. E&O, workers' comp, etc. They want certain insurances to be in place, and they'll tell you what that is. And sometimes it changes. Right now, they want COVID insurances. They want special budget items to be added for COVID. Right now, everyone is adding about 10% of the budget to deal with any COVID-related stuff. 10% of the budget. Can you imagine how much money that is? I am dying already just talking about it. Any fees and costs that you want to add, they would have to approve. And they will tell you what they'll allow you to add or not. When it comes to production deals, you want to have a deal with a line producer. You do a deal with a payroll company that's easiest. You can do independent contractors for certain services that are outside the scope of what a payroll company would need to do. And you can have deal memos. And independent contractor agreements and deal memos are usually the same, but sometimes they just look a little different, but they have the same function. And important is that the independent contractor agreements, and actually all these agreements, make sure that none of these people have rights to any of the materials. All of the people release any rights. Like when you do a deal with a DP, any footage that he shot is not his to keep, it's yours. So you need to make sure that all assets that are related to their work on the movie is transferred automatically to the production company so that they don't own anything. You also want to make sure that there's a liability clause in there if something happens to them. If it's an independent contractor, they have to have their own insurance, their own liability insurance. If something happens to them, they're covered by their own insurance, not by you. If it's a payroll situation, they're obviously covered by workers' comp. But you still want to have a waiver in there. If something happens to them, you're not liable. The guild agreements are subject to, there can be specialized agreements that you make with them relating to the budget. This could be an agreement that says, I'm going to do this movie for under $1 million. I don't want to pay the union fees as they are right now. I want special fees, and I want you, union, to agree with me on those. And then SAG, DGA could, if they talk to you about, we want money up front, we want you to pay a SAG bond, we want you to pay some kind of bond up front, you negotiate that number with them. Ideally, try to avoid it. But in many cases, when you start out as a signatory, they will make you pay something up front. You'll get it back later, but they will make you pay something up front. Make sure that number is low. When you deal with residuals, make sure you do a deal with the SAG, with the unions that say, I'm not responsible for residuals. I'm going to defer that responsibility to the distributors. And then you have to defer to the distributors. And then you can only hope that the distributor takes it. It might be that the guild says to you, I'm not going to let you defer this in our agreement. And you're just going to have to assign the responsibility later. So they might insist on you keeping that liability until you assign it. Depends on the conversation you have with them. So you need to make sure in that case that you assign the residuals and the payment responsibility for those to the distributor. When you do in-kind and deferment deals, you are really looking at what you're deferring and who you're deferring for, because those deals are very specific to what you're actually doing. If you do a music investment deal, obviously that's easy. They pay for the music budget and they get the music royalty revenues, fine. But if you're deferring visual effects, post-production, You specify exactly the amount you're deferring. You specify when the deferment is being paid and if there's any premium being paid. This kind of clauses, these deferment clauses, will find their place in the agreements, in the independent contractor agreement, in the deal members that you do with your crews, or in the service agreements you do with the service provider. So you're finding all these things that you agree to in the agreements that relate to the services that they're providing you with. But make sure that when you do a deferment deal with, let's say, a post house, and they up their rates a little bit because they're deferring, make sure they're not doubling their rates. So always get more quotes. At least get 3 quotes for any service provider you hire. Post-production, always go to 3 post-production houses. Visual effects, always go to 3 visual effects houses. Any kind of set design and set build, go to 3 different companies, get quotes from everyone, and then do the deals based on the quotes and whoever you're most happy with. A collection agency agreement is pretty straightforward because it combines essential terms of all the agreements that we talked about here today. And that is an agreement that is managed by the collection agent. So you basically just follow their lead and you make sure that the terms you agreed with all these parties are found in this agreement. So you just check and make sure it's correct. But usually what happens is you send the agreements to the collection agent and they do this automatically. But you need to keep an eye on this. But you don't have to do much on this. The collection agent is handling every step of this. So that's very helpful. So what I did here is I basically summed up the things that I mentioned in one slide. So I'm going to send this to you as always. So you're going to do one slide here with all the major terms that you need to deal with when you do these agreements. You deal with this. You look at this going, hold on, what was it again? What am I doing? You just look at this thing. You don't have to even take notes and you just keep it on your wall. This is for all the essential agreements that we have. Most of them are listed. And yes, I have actually 2 slides. One is for financing, one is for distribution. So just keep these slides handy, pin them on a wall or something, and then you are always in kind of a safe space. I have to give you a disclaimer right now because I'm not a lawyer. So I can't actually give you legal advice. I can just tell you what I do with my deals and share that with you. So if you have a lawyer to tell you different things, be open to them and let them explain to you why they want to do different things. And if it makes sense to you, please listen to them. So that's that. What I would like to, we already talked about the group, what I would like to do yet real quick with you is I'm going to divide you into 2 groups. How do I do this? Take a screenshot of this. I'm going to do the budget together with you. Take a screenshot of this real quick because I have someone walk me through the budget in a minute. We're going to put a budget together for a project that we're going to do a case study for. It's not going to be crazy. It just looks crazy, but take a screenshot of this real quick. And then I'm going to go to the assumptions for this study, which is this. So take a screenshot of that too. And we're going to do this together, so no worries. Everyone take a screenshot, and now take a screenshot of this. That's the last one. So now I'm going to, when you have the screenshots, everyone took their screenshots?
I don't know.
We're going to, yeah? Well,
I don't know how to do it on my computer.
I think you do Control P.
Control P? Okay.
I think so. Try Control P. That's a window.
On a Mac, is Command the arrow up and 3 or 4. With 3, you screenshot the whole screen. With 4, you can select a section.
Okay. Control 3, or what did you say? 3 or 4?
Command, then the little arrow for the capital letter, and 3 or 4.
The Shift key, yeah. Command Shift.
Key.
Oh,
yeah, thanks.
Shift.
Don't know the name for that.
Great.
Okay, I'm not.
Do you want me to go back to the first page? So let me go back to the first slide. So everyone who didn't take a screenshot of the first slide, take a screenshot of this.
Yeah.
This is just a budget.
Cami, I can email it to you if you want right now.
That would be great.
You
can do that.
I
you
have
can
a
also
really
use
old
a
Mac.
snippet tool. The snippet.
Maybe there is a way for me to, do we know if there's a way for me to send this slide through the chat?
Yeah.
I've never done this.
Well,
I think so.
I mean, you'd have to either send the whole thing.
I want to send the whole thing. Can I send the whole thing?
Yes.
John, let me see here.
You can send the whole file through the chat.
Can I I'm going to try this right now. First, I'll let you do the screenshot so we have that for sure. So everyone do the budget. We're going to do the budget together. I just need someone then later to read this to me. and then do the first page of the assumptions. By the way, this is also the extra credit case study. So now you already have it. You can just send it in, you get another 5 points. So you're not doing this for nothing. This is going to be in your module too. And then this is the last page for the assumptions. So did we all take screenshots of all three? And I'm now going to try to send this file through.
I have emailed it to group 2, so you guys should have a screenshot of this in your email box.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca.
Right. So let me now stop the share so I can figure out how to, hold on. How do I stop it? Hold on, stop share. I'm not going to try to figure out how I'm going to send this to you. Great. Never done this. How the heck?
Yeah, it doesn't let you attach in chat.
It doesn't let me attach in chat.
No.
Stupid. Yikes.
No wonder their stock went down
you can take the screenshot and send it. I've sent pictures over chat before.
Yeah, if you guys could do that and share with each other. So what we're going to do first, and I'm going to do this together with you, and I'm going to share my Excel sheet with you. We're going to put the budget together first. So let me open up my Excel for the budget, and then we do that together. Here is the budget. And I'm going to actually, maybe I can move this over here. I can move this over here. So now I'm going to share my budget with you. And so you see what that is. You have this budget, by the way, also on the module when this thing comes up. So no worries. I'm also obviously going to send it to you after we're done here. So let me share my screen for the budget because I want to do one thing. That's not it. Scroll, go away. Hold on, no one leaves the room here. What the hell? Share screen. Do you see my budget?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So now can someone in your group tell me the amounts that I need to put in here? What is the amounts for rights?
That is 25,000.
Okay, because I'm not seeing it on my screen. Writing?
150,000.
Development?
75.
Producer and staff?
850.
Hold on, what the hell? Oh my God, is it blinking now? Okay. Director and staff?
3.5 million. Oh, yes. No, sorry, 3.5 I think is talent. Yeah.
Okay.
Director and staff
Mm-hmm.
is 250.
250,000?
Yes.
Okay. What is production staff?
Production staff is 500,000.
Okay. Camera?
Camera is 250,000.
Set construction?
Set construction 25,000.
Locations?
Location is 50,000.
Production allowances?
6.2 million.
2006, ist das richtig? No, 62 million. Not really. Hold on.
6.2, no, that's high.
Yeah, I know, right? And then film editorial?
Editorial 320,000.
320.
Yeah.
Okay, film post?
260.
VFX?
320.
Music?
120.
Other production allowances?
650.
And general expenses and legal?
250.
All right, so that should be our budget. Okay, so this budget, our grand total is 16,057,105. I need you to write that down because that's the budget that we're working with. I might.
You had the financing costs also? Would that be added to the
It's
general?
automatically, my thing already does that automatically. Basically, it does 10% of the sum of the above the line and below the line. Contingency does 5% of the above the line and below the line. The bond fee does 2% of whatever is available and already connects to the exclusion. So it's already, I have a formula in here for that one. So you will see that if I click, for example, on here,
Yeah.
there's going to be a formula what it is, and then these are deducted. They're
Right.
not going to be part of it. So it's already in there. I just wanted to do the budget with you so you don't have to do this on your own. So this is the budget, 16,057,105. So just write that down, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 rooms, and you're going to do this case study, and I'm going to come into each room, and we have about, let's try to do like, see how far you get in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Work with each other and see how far you get using the assumptions. And I'll see you again.
Which template should we use to do that?
You can use any of the templates you have.
From the past, okay.
Yeah, if you have one, you can start one fresh, whatever makes you feel, whatever is best. So I'm now creating the rooms. Here we go. I see you again in 15 minutes. Creating rooms. Is it creating?
I don't know.
Open all rooms.
Okay, great.
Are we going? Oh yeah, everyone's leaving into the room. Okay, perfect. Patrick and April, you guys don't want to do it? Are you still here? Not hearing me. All right, I'm going to do. How?
No, because the adjusted gross is
How?
8 million to 50, right?
It's what?
The adjusted gross is 8 million to 50.
Minus
So
the distribution fee, no?
no, because the box office was 20 million, right? So the studio keeps 55%, which is 11 million. The distribution fee is 2.750, which is 25%. So we do the 11 million minus 2,750, and we get 8 million to 50. So that's the adjusted gross. And the producer
Okay.
gets 35% of that, which is 2.887.
Hold on. Where do we say the producer get 35% of that?
Oh, we didn't. No, we're just,
Don't.
no, we don't. Because we're using the,
Oh yeah, okay, so don't use that. Here's what I wanted to do. I just sent you a template through. I
oh,
sent it
cool.
to everyone. So I just sent it to the entire
Awesome.
course. So just look at the template. The budget's already in there. And then you
Awesome.
can see already the percentages, and you see
Oh,
that
that's
the
great.
producer does not get 35. So don't get confused with the other template. That's why I just sent it through.
Awesome.
You have it on your, so basically the first temp sheet is going to be your top sheet budget, and the second sheet is going to be funding and recoupment. By the way, the strike price should be correct in there. It has formulas in there already, so I hope that works a little bit and helps a little bit. So you can try to work with that.
Cool. That really helps.
Yeah.
So the producers
Okay.
share.
Producer keeps everything. In this case, you're not deducting the 35%, meaning the producer does not just get 35% in our case right now. It gets 100%. It gets everything after the studio deducts its distribution fee from the share the studio has after the distributor, right? Exhibitor.
Okay, so they will get the 8,250,000.
So try that, see if that works. I'm going to check with the other room.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, let's start here. Yeah, it's much better now.
Hi guys, I just wanted to let you know, I sent you a temp sheet through email. I sent it to everyone, so I know you should have gotten it too. On the first Excel sheet, you're seeing the top sheet budget that we just did together. On the second Excel sheet, you basically see all the steps related to the study. So it helps you a little bit to organize a little faster, a little more efficient. Check your email and see if you found it.
Jeanette, where's the producer percentage after the adjusted gross?
The producer profits is going to be whatever. Oh, you're talking about domestic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go to the Excel that I just sent you,
okay,
and you see that what it shows you is it has the box. It's going to be, after you filled it in, has the box office of 20 million. It's going to show the exhibitor receiving 45% of that, leaving the studio with 55% of that. Studios then, P&A is being deducted, studios start dotting a fee, and you're basically ending up with a net revenue for the producer that is net off whatever the exhibitor gets, whatever the studio has to pay, whatever the studio charges, his distribution fee, and whatever the P&A investor is getting. That's your net. And you can see the steps in the little temp sheet there, because everything that you have to pay is listed. You have to pay your P&A back, you have to pay the premium on the P&A back, and you have to pay Paramount its 25% distribution fee on whatever Paramount gets after Paramount paid the exhibitor. So those are the things that are deducted. Right, when the box office comes in, the first money goes to the exhibitor, then the studio gets some, charges distribution fee. In this case, it's charged a little later, it's fine, it's the same amount. And then the P&A gets charged, the fee for the P&A gets charged. All of this gets charged against the US revenues that come in, the 20 million.
Okay, so the studio paid the P&A.
Well, you kind of paid it, but it gets deducted from it. Doesn't really matter who pays it. You had an investor pay.
From their percentage.
It's correct. It's basically deducted from whatever comes in domestically. Yeah.
So can I
And
ask, if we put the budget into this Excel that you provided, will it populate?
should
Okay.
try that. Just put in 16,057,105, and the
Okay.
rest should do its thing.
Okay.
Try that. See where you get stuck.
Mhm.
What and then we'll do it together in a minute. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to
Thank
leave you to
you.
it. Of course.
$108.
No, it's 15% of the production cost that needs to be financed. So it's the budget less other.
Yeah, we need to subtract
Right.
whatever we already got,
Yeah.
which is the net loan plus the pre-sale.
What's the bank loan, gross gap loan? So it's basically, it's the gap loan that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right, exactly.
But mezzanine, no, the gap, wait. The bank loan 7.33 is calculating, E62. Bank gross loan.
Yeah, if you consider the old budget, you do get that 2 million number, but if you consider the whole budget minus the bank loan, then you get 1,415,000.
Okay, so okay, I understand.
I'm going to grab some coffee.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so on my side, it's now 1,308,573.
For the mezzanine?
Yeah.
Okay, I get a different number for some reason.
What was your number, Rebecca?
It's 1,415,000.
415.
841.66 because I did the whole budget.
What's your formula?
So I did the whole budget minus the loan because that's actually the overall, because he also considers the pre-sales, I believe.
Right, you don't need the crowdfunding money. You don't need the, I mean, the question is you have to look at both the mezzanine loan and the equity investment, because the equity investment is the balance needed to fund, but you won't know the balance till you know the mezzanine loan.
Exactly. No, but what I was saying is that I did the whole budget minus the bank loan, and then I did 15% of that.
The mezzanine, I think, is slide 3. Is there a reason we're jumping to that instead of doing the bank loan first?
The bank loan's in there.
Actually, it's not though, because the loan fee and the legal fee are not in there. She's right. We just skipped that. We should go back to that.
Which assumption page had the bank loan? Assumption page 2?
It was the second, yes. Yeah,
Bank
we need
starts
to
on page 1.
20% of the bank.
65%.
Which is the cap that's in there. Loan fees, you're right. Loan fees 65,000.
Yeah.
That's E64. Good catch. And legal fee E65 is 25,000.
Yep.
All fees and interest to be deducted. So net bank loan available at closing is 6528160.63. Yeah, she did a 93 in the tier 1 and tier 2. Interest 4% a year. So
Okay.
interest
Now I
is
see what I was
interest
doing
is
wrong.
in there at 8% right now,
Yep.
but in the assumption it's 6%, right?
How fun.
Yeah, max
6% in
20.
assumption? I
What?
thought it's 4% per year. 4% per year is 8% for 2 years. 6%
Right, but
for
it
the
says
gap
it-
loan is 12% for 2 years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, 6% loan year 2. Gotcha. Thank you.
Very well.
Tricky.
I know, tricky.
Okay. So 6528160 is correct for G66.
Hold on
Yeah.
a second.
G66. 150.
The bank loan together available at closing is 6,528,160 and 63 cents.
63 cents. Okay.
Wait,
So then,
no.
so then we moved on to the third assumption. Mezzanine loan is 15% of the actual production cost needing to finance.
So
So
that's your strike price.
that's the strike price minus the.
So it's the budget minus the IL that you need to, minus what you need to.
No, can you go back to what's the bank loan again? Because I think I'm getting a different
Yes,
number.
please.
G66 is 652816063. The only thing you actually need to add is E64 and E65.
I did that, but I'm getting a different number.
So what are you getting on E66?
Oh, no. Okay. I got it. Okay, yes. Sorry. It's right. Yeah.
So 16,057,105 minus the 652816063, and also minus the available for funding,
Yes.
right? The 988.
Exactly. Yep. So we get the mezzanine is 1,281,46. Right?
No, I come up with
No,
a
sorry.
lot more.
That's the, and then we need to subtract the fee to that.
I come up with the budget strike price 6528160. I'm coming up with 8,540,000.
Well, the budget strike price is 16,057,105 minus your $440,000. Right?
Oh.
Because that's your in-kind services.
Okay.
It's your
So we
strike
can
price.
do
Let's
mezzanine
do that
until.
first, and then you know what the mezzanine is because it's 15% of that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So in-kind services are being deferred, and the VFX and music are the amounts that are not in there. We got to go back to the assumptions.
Okay.
So was that on
120 and 320.
Okay, VFX and music were on the first part of the budget.
Yep.
So E92 is 320 and E93 is 120.
So it's 440, so 440,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So the strike price automatically adjusted.
Yep. So I'm getting a net mezzanine of 2,288,137.
I'm not.
Of how much?
I'm getting way less.
I'm getting the net mezzanine investment of 2,288,137.
Close. The 15% should be 2,342,565 because it's 15% of the strike price, which is 15,617,105.
Right.
So it's 50% of the strike price. It's not 15% of
right.
what's
you
left to
do,
fund.
so in
then I get it.
E69, you want to do the cell of D69 times E4.
Yes.
And that's 2,342,565.75. You said.
Yes. Okay.
And then interest is not being calculated yet. So
no, interest is calculated. It's 5%.
You need to do the formula because it's not in the worksheet. E70 needs to be E69 times D70.
Yeah.
So then you
Yeah.
should get to 2,225,437, right?
46
Yes.
cents and a half.
Correct. All right, good. You're making progress.
Cool.
Okay. So then crowdfunding is in there at the 5% and the 25% of fees. 20,000 was used to pay the development costs. So you have to put E75 is $20,000.
Cool.
So G76 is 582,141.44.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Brand integration is not entered. E79 is 650,000.
Right.
Where did you get the brand into?
Brand
Oh, there you
integration
go.
is
I got
on
it.
chapter 3.
Yep, I got it. 650.
And it is automatically calculating to the 50% of the 243. Production incentive loan, 35% of applicable expenses only below the line with a 10% fee due to lender up front. So the 10% fee will calculate, so E85 is the below the line expenses from the budget. Below the line expenses is the total, below the line is cell K30 of the budget.
K30. Okay.
So it just equals K30, which is 8695.
K30.
Leaving 35% production incentive applicable with a 10% fee due, that's 304,000, as well as legal fee to be deducted.
How
So
much is-
E88 is $15,000,
Okay, thanks.
leaving 2.723925.
Oh.
Correct.
2.7?
2,723,925 on G89.
How am I getting 2,688,000?
Did you put E88? Did you put the 15,000 in?
E88. Yeah, 15.
Yeah.
See, I put 50. That's my
Great.
English.
You guys are making progress.
Cool. Okay.
So then we already did the in-kind. Equity investment,
Yes.
balance needed to fund the strike price. That's already calculated at the 2,325,054
Should be right.
and 52 cents.
Great.
Cool, man. Fun.
You're doing great.
Okay.
So we need to put in the guilds are not in there, and the collection agent is in there 1%.
Yeah.
Plus a setup fee. The setup fee is
So
not in
1%?
there.
No.
It's L28,
Mm-hmm.
40,000.
I'm just having 40,000. Okay. I just have too many things open.
1% plus setup fee.
40,000.
SAG, WGA, and DGA are 850,000. So the guilds are L32. 850,000.
850,000.
Yeah. And
Cool.
then sales agent fee is 6% on pre-sale balance, which is already calculated, and 16% on all others, which is looks like it's already calculated. E55 unsold territories. And all other waterfall commitments. So the expenses total, L48 is not calculating. So that is equal to
The sum of everything.
everything from L27 through 46.
which is supposed to be 50,820,000
Yep.
and 42.80.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Great.
Net
So-
revenue of 33,576, 486.43. And then just because she would have changed it, check the mezzanine 5%, crowdfunding 1%. Crowdfunding 1%, talent 30%.
So the rent revenue, how much do you get?
Net revenue 33,576,486.43. 486.43.
What?
So I'm getting
No.
1.9.
1,936,000, I guess.
Thank you. That's correct, Rebecca.
Oh, because
You didn't do your domestic.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
1,936,482. Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct.
So all of this look right. All the back end point.
Yeah,
So it
producer
should
gets
be
464,736.20.
Perfect. You did it.
Cool.
All right. I'm going to get both rooms together and I'm going to walk the other ones to it so everyone knows what they need, what they do. Look, Lishan is looking at me going, I'm laying back on my sofa. I'm not doing any of this. I'm
I'm struggling. No, it's all good.
Lishan is like, I don't know, it's way too late for me. I didn't have enough coffee yet. I'm going to.
I'm slower than everybody else, but I'll catch
okay.
on.
I'm going to figure out how I'm going to bring everyone back. Let me just see breakout rooms. I'm going to close all rooms.
I just realized I had the camera on and it was like this the whole time. So that was a great picture for you guys.
You did good. You did literally very good. So, well, I think let me go back here.
It last March. So I've got
Great. You guys did great. Come on. You did great. So I'm going to share my screen to walk you through the case study together, and then you can see where maybe you have gotten stuck.
Okay.
So we all started with a budget, right? We all started here. We put all this together and we got to this number, which this is what we did together. So here then, you see there is a budget, but there's also a strike price. And the assumptions mentioned that you're going to deduct a few things from your budget, which are the in-kind services. The in-kind services was visual effects for 320,000 and your music budget of 120,000. So these 440,000 in-kind services, which are deferments that you'll pay later, you're going to have to pay them later in recoupment. You don't have to pay them right now, are being deducted from your budget because you don't have to pay them right now. So your actual strike price, meaning the budget that you are paying right now to fund, is 15,617,105. So that's important to start with because some of the elements that you're going to be looking at are connected to this. The international sales.
What are we deducting from that again? From
Those
the regular
here. You're seeing my screen, yeah?
The music and the VFX, right?
These two things here. This is what we're deducting.
The in-kind
services, right? We've done this, I believe, in one other case study where we had a difference between a budget and a strike price by identifying costs that we don't have to pay right this moment when we're closing our financing, we're paying them later. It means if we don't have to pay them right now, we don't have to pay them right now. So we don't have to fund them. That's why they're going to be taken out of the budget that we actually need to fund at the moment when we're closing our movie. They will be paid later in the recoupment, but right now we don't have to fund them. So that's why we take them out. So what we're actually needing to fund today is this amount. This is the amount we're funding today. So $15 million is all we're dealing with for this moment. I'm going to make this yellow. For this is the amount we need to fund. So the way we fund it is we figure out our usual nonsense. We know we have to look at 80% of projections. In this case, our international sales estimates are 80% of our budget. Budget is this. So we're going by the budget when we do sales estimates, always, not by the strike price. And then we sold a few things. We sold Germany, we sold Italy, we sold England, we sold France, we sold India, and we sold China. And every contract that we entered into had different payment terms. Germany is paying 10% up, 20% upfront, and 80% when we deliver them the movie. Italy is paying 15% upfront, 85% when we deliver the movie. England is paying 20% upfront, 80% when we deliver the movie. France is paying 20%, 80% when we deliver the movie, and India and China both pay 10% when we're signing the pre-sale agreement and 90% when we deliver the movie. So we're looking at this and we're summing up all our down payments to make sure we know what we have. And then we're also making sure that we're figuring out what the bank is giving us. And the bank is giving us money for these tiers. And there's two different discounts that the banks apply. One is for the good tier 1 and the other one is for the not so good tier 2. So when we walk about our bank loan, we remember what the bank is going to give us. So right now we have a down payment that we're putting all together for tier 1 and tier 2 total. And we also, here's our down payment total, which is 1 million. All of these down payments that we're getting from these contracts is this. The sales agent wants his money on the money that we're getting right now. So we have to pay him 6%. So it leaves us with this amount that we have available to fund right now out of the transaction of our pre-sales. That's the first money that we get together for our movie. It's 988,635. So then we go to our bank loan. And the bank loan here is going to look at the tiers. They're going to give us 93% of tier 1 and 60% of tier 2. That gets us our subtotal for our pre-sale loan here. I want to just put a little thingy down there. And then it will deduct the down payment. That's the money we already received. So we're left with 4,100,000 and some change. The bank is going to charge 4% per year, and the term of our loan is 2 years. So we're now deducting 8% because we have to pay 4% per year. And this is what we're left with net. So this is our net pre-sale loan that we get from our contracts. And then we're looking at what is available on the gap loan. So we're looking at our unsold rights. We're deducting what's actually available for us after we deducted everything. We charge our 12% interest, which is 6% per year. And we get to our net bank gap loan. We're deducting the loan fees and the legal fees. And when we put together our net bank loan from the pre-sales and the gap, we end up with this amount that is available for us to cover our budget. The mezzanine is calculated on the strike price, which is here, this one. So this is how we figure out how much mezzanine we're getting, because the mezzanine lender says, I'm only giving you 15% of the actual expenses. Actual expenses equals strike price. So that's when we charge our interest that we need to pay them. And that's what we're left with. When we do a crowdfunding, it was 5%. I think it was off the budget, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look. Yes, it's off the budget. So we get 5% of the budget. We have to pay a 20% commission. $20,000 that we got from the crowdfunder were used to help us with development. So we have to deduct it here because we're not getting that anymore. So we're ending with crowdfunding of this. Brand integration, we get half now and we get the rest later. Production incentives are only going to be paid on below the line. So we go back to our budget and see what's our below the line. It's this one, below the line. So we put that number here and then we charge our incentive, which is 35% on below the line. We pay our fees, we pay the legal fee, and we get to this amount for our incentive. The in-kind services, we're just putting them here, but we're not adding them because we're not dealing with them right now. We're going to deal with them in the recoupment. So subtotal of all these elements that we have put together here, right, is going to be summed up down there so we can figure out how much we need to meet the strike price, which is our equity. Is this clear so far?
Wait, so when you're doing that, you're not deducting the in-kind. You're just, I mean, adding the in-kind. It's just everything else. Okay.
Correct, exactly. So when we look at our revenues, we obviously go by, you know, here's what we got. International sales, we had to pay the down payment. And then this is basically exactly this number. This is our international projections. This is basically just the same number. We then deduct the down payment that we got, and we are left with this number. This is all we're getting right now because we already got a down payment. When we look at the box office for the US, we have 20 million box office. 45% of that goes to the exhibitor, which leaves us with 11 million. We could have deducted the studio fee here, by the way, just so you know. It doesn't really matter if you deduct it here or later. So in this case, we went straight into the P&A, which is this amount, $1,500 per screen. It was 1,500 screens. They want to charge us a 12.5% premium on the money that they gave us. So altogether, we're ending up being left with this because we're deducting the P&A. And then we also have to pay the distribution fee that the studio has, which is 25% of the money that's left for the studio, which is the 11 million. And then we're ending up, after we deduct everything, with US revenues of 5 million. And when we add the US revenues and the international revenues here together, see those? We end up with 17 million and some change for the worldwide revenues. And then we have to add our branding, of course, the other part of the branding that we're still getting, which will get us to 17,756,443 in total revenues from the world. Any questions about this portion? So now we look at our expenses. The collection agent is charging 1%. There was a setup fee that we had to pay to them of 40,000. The bank loan gross was this amount. We're putting it in here. We're now paying all the interest. We had to pay the guilds some money, so we're adding that here. The sales agent is charging us 6% on the pre-sales and 16% on all the rest. So we're making sure that we're charging this to the right amount. We're paying our mezzanine lender back with the premium, and we also had them charge us a producer fee deferred, which is why we're putting it here. We had our equity, and they are charging their 20%. And we're now charging the in-kind services here. And they wanted a VIG, they wanted a 10% premium, which we're charging now here. So altogether, our expenses would be 15,820,000 because everything that we now need to pay is listed. That leaves us with 1,936,000 and some change. And now we're paying all our profit participants here. We pay 5% to the mezzanine lender, 1% to the crowdfunder, 30% to our talent. Equity wanted 40%, these bastards, which leaves us with 464,736 for the producer in profit. Any questions about this part? You want to digest it at home?
You mind scrolling up for a moment?
Yeah, of course.
Let's double check something.
Yeah, here.
850. I was just looking, no, at the guilds. I had that number wrong.
This is okay?
Yes. And then what's the total again?
The total is 15,820,4280 for all your expenses.
Off for some reason.
You're off?
Yeah.
Did you do you did your bank loan gross, yeah?
Yes. I think yes. Can you scroll down one more time? I think I fixed it. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to send this to all of you, of course. But anyone who did not get this result, take the temp sheet that I circulated. The assumptions I will circulate again with this PDF that we worked on today, PowerPoint, sorry. And then just try it again. And if you get stuck again somewhere, because obviously you had limited amount of time, so you couldn't really think about it, just let me know and I'll walk you through it one-on-one again. Was that okay?
Yes.
I'm going to do stop share. So this is the kind of case study you will find in the final, which we'll discuss in 2 weeks. So just try that one more time. If you had any, hiccups, and then you can see kind of where you get stuck. again, I sent you the temp formula. It is probably better if you try it on your own, not using the temp, so you're clear about the steps. And then you can use the temp to just kind of say, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I miss? So that you kind of can check on yourself a little bit, because in the real world, you probably have to, I mean, you can actually use this. If you ever put a movie together, you can use any of these templates and just adjust them to whatever is applicable for your movie. But give it a try on your own if you did not have the right result today. Any more questions?
I had a question. The next class, that's the day before the end of the quarter, right? So are we going to get the final earlier, like the
I give you the final, but we're also going to talk about the final together. So we basically, in essence, are going to do the final together. So you don't have to stress out over that. I just wanted you to be a little prepared for it so that you know what's coming. But it's not, you know, it's multiple choice. And I will open, I think it's opening up on Monday anyway. And then you can see it. And then, but don't, you know, it's not complicated. You'll know, this is the most complicated part in the final. This is one question that has this complexity of case study. And you've done it now, do it again, and you'll be fine in the final. But we will do it also together, so no worries on that. And then we'll do, so next time I see you, we'll do the final, and we'll do the projects. So it should be fun. Exciting! And then I hope you buggers have a great 2 weeks. Enjoy wherever you are. And Diana cannot go to bed. I think she's probably already sleeping or something. What is it, 11 o'clock there?
I'm fine. It's only 10 p.m. 10:20.
Oh, really? Only 10 p.m. I don't know how you do it. All right, guys. I will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, Jeanette, do you still have a minute that you can say? Oh,
Yeah, I can stay on. Let me just, oh, yeah. Go
no,
ahead.
I just want to like walk through the midterm question too. If
Midterm question, sure. You know what I need to do though? I need to stop the recording.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be on the recording. You know, let me do that real quick. Letian, why don't you log back in when I'm done stopping the recording? Let's do that. I'm logging you out and then we'll log back in.
Cool.
Bye.